Hey, welcome back to my channel. My name's Carly Stevens. This is Carly Stevens Books, all about writing, publishing, and indie author life. And I am super excited to have Bowen Gillings here with me today. Bowen is an Amazon bestselling and award-winning author, uh, writing to bring fun back to fiction. His latest release is the humorous paranormal thriller Exceptionals. Bowen holds 5 martial arts black belts, is an Army veteran, loves travel, cooking, and a fine adult beverage. And today we're going to be talking all about writing good fight scenes. So, welcome, Bowen.
Thank you for having me, Carly. Good to talk to you.
Yeah, well, I am really excited about this topic. It's one that comes up pretty often in my writing, maybe not every story, but some of them have a lot of fighting. And obviously, you have so much more experience in different styles of fighting and things like that that I am just looking forward to getting to pick your brain. So, before we really do a deep dive into that topic, though, I'm wondering how, with your varied background and all of that, you got into writing yourself.
Um, well, I am not one of those people that has always wanted to write. You always see that in so many bios. I came into this into writing because I used to be a professional actor and
Hmm.
responding to calls from my agent to be someplace the following morning at 8 a.m. Did not necessarily, it wasn't very conducive to a family lifestyle, let's put it that way. So, as my wife and I were getting ready to have our first child, I realized I had to make a change. But I still wanted a creative outlet. And there was a story that had been percolating in my head for, since I first joined the army. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna write this, but I don't know how to write it. So that got me into meeting with writing writers groups and critique groups and working into being parts of writers organizations and taking workshops and all that stuff. So I probably kind of got serious about this in 2016 is when it was the first conference I ever attended, first writers conference I ever attended, and just got overwhelmed and fell in love with the whole art, with the people, with fellow writers and creatives. And that's how I got into it. And just have had a great ride so far and plan on keeping the ride going as long as I can.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It's one of the things that's so great about writing is that it doesn't matter when or how you start, you can always begin and kind of
Mhm.
take whatever your experiences are into your writing. So, how has your experience, particularly, with martial arts and being an army veteran and all of that, just affected the way that you write stories, not only fight scenes, but just in general? How has that affected your writing?
I would say both have given me kind of a work ethic. Anything that you do over and over again, or you do with a level of seriousness and develop a discipline for it, kind of translates across your lifestyle, whatever that is. So, my experience in the military really helped me set up like goal setting and structure and understanding, basically like a course of a workday, planning out what I need to do and aiming for those goals. Honestly, as with everybody, you don't always hit them, but you know what you're aiming at. So it's kind of like this is the end state you're going for, but it's the path that's getting there that's more important. Martial arts, same thing, but it's kind of a self-discipline and a self-reflection, understanding what works and what doesn't work. For example, the first thing I tried to write was right out of the gate. I wanted to do this huge epic fantasy. I wanted to do this kind of fantastical 3 novel series set in kind of a fantasy version of the French and Indian War era of North
Mm.
America. So you had this kind of untamed continent kind of thing. So I had all these big things, and I was going to have it from 5 or 6 points of view because I wanted to be like George R. R. Martin and Song of Ice and Fire. Had all this, got like 12 chapters in, and realized I'm stuck. Like I know where I want to go, but I didn't know how to get there. And I tried all this different mapping and all this stuff, and I realized I had bitten off way too much. I didn't have the skill set yet. So what my martial arts background had allowed me to do is like I know what I've been doing that works, and I've been receiving comments from critique groups or whatever and readers. But what I learned is okay, I need to train more. I need to learn more and know more about everything to do with the craft before I can attempt this book. Otherwise, I'm not going to do the story I want justice. So
Hmm.
that's how both of them have kind of affected my writing in that sense.
That's
Excuse me.
interesting. It's not exactly what I was expecting. I thought maybe themes and stuff like that would be your initial thought, but it's the discipline of having setting goals and finding ways, paths to achieve those. So do you have a writing schedule that you always stick to then, or?
I do not. I used to. I used to try and force myself um, to write early in the morning, which is it's my favorite time of day. I like the quiet of morning, and I still will.
Mhm.
That's what I'll still do most of my writing when I do. But I would beat myself up if I if something got in the way or I missed it for some reason. If you have pets, family, whatever, life can get in the way, and then um, you end up kind of being down on yourself, or I would get down on myself because I didn't do it. I felt like the day was unproductive because I didn't do it, but I wasn't recognizing what I was actually achieving each day.
Mm.
So now I have more of just a goal of consistency. Am I getting to the story on a regular basis? Am I moving forward? Am I not, I will start to get a sense, okay, my gosh, I have not written in 3 days and I need to get back to it. And then I will find a way to carve out time. There is a fantastic book. I think it's called, yeah, it's not mine, but I will promo it. It's called Dear Writer, You Need to Quit by Becca Syme. And it's not
Oh,
about
wait,
quitting writing. You got it too?
this one?
That one, yes.
That's the one.
I love that book because it liberated me. It gave me the freedom to
Mm.
understand this is my process. My process is not a rigid, um, multicolored calendar day that I fit everything in. That doesn't work for me. It works for a lot of people. It doesn't work for me. I like having the flex. I like being able to, I'm going to fit it in today. Like my Fridays are my best writing days. I usually Fridays for me a big writing day because I type slow is like a 2,000 to 3,000 word day, and I'm very happy. Um, so I do not have a regimented regular structure, but I have built into me this discipline of I can't step away too long, otherwise it's going to take too much work to get back. So I do keep consistently going at it. I do not follow a regimented schedule. I follow a theme of consistency of every week I'm doing something, whether it's on Friday or on Tuesday or whatever. If I can get multiple days a week, that's fantastic. But I'm not going to beat myself up if I don't. I have the benefit, as to you probably as a self-published author. Um, I don't have a deadline except for a deadline I set for myself. So if I set my own deadlines, um, and I meet them, I feel great. If I don't meet them, all right, okay, how do I adjust so I can meet it next time? There you
Yeah, it's a blessing and a curse setting your own deadlines, right?
go.
It's sometimes I'm just a machine and I hit every single one, and there are the other times as well. So let's get back to the kind of topic for today for
No
this
problem.
video. It's those action scenes, those fight scenes. Personally, I tend to err on the side of choreography. I've found a better balance, I think, over time, but um, like, what have you seen in terms of like how much choreography do you need in a fight scene for it to be something that people can picture and understand what's going on?
I would say that really has to depend on the story you're writing, the genre it's set in, the tone of the story. I find that very detailed choreography fits best into genres that it's expected. Or, for example, military thrillers. You look at hardcore sci-fi, anything that is where you're already going to have a lot of technical details, then choreography fits. Um, if you are in a fantasy tale, for example, where the world is very, very violent, and you have frequent duels, let's say, just as to make it easy, if there's a duel scenario, then choreography makes sense. However, if you are in a broader scope, let's say you're doing a battle scene and you have a character or characters in a battle, so there's all this chaos going around. Having detailed choreography of which hand or leg did this, which if he stepped right, stepped left, etc., bogs down the momentum of that action, in my opinion. So, for example, if you are in just say a regular thriller or suspense novel, I don't think you need to go into a detailed, choreographed fight unless what you're trying to do is demonstrate a specific level of proficiency in that character. In my workshop, I give an example of Joe Ledger in the Jonathan Mayberry series of Joe Ledger novels, where it's very choreographed. This hand does this, the opponent reacts this way, my next move is this, and it's a very choreographed dance. And that can work if you the writer, know what it is you're describing. Not necessarily that you have to also be an experienced martial artist, but you understand the choreography. You can picture it. If you're in that case, in that story, it was a first person POV. So you're picturing it from Joe's POV, and you have to be able to show it to your reader in that character's POV. If you're in a third person POV, okay, then you need to be able to stand back and observe from 360 degrees how this fight is taking place, seeing when character A does this, character B responds this way, and seeing how you can choreograph it and understand the openings, so that it works and so your reader can follow you. What I find sometimes confusing is when there's detailed choreography you can't follow because it's so detailed. Like, all right, the leg is going which way, and how is he standing? How is this twisting happening? And in many cases, you can get by with a more general, like, flurry of blows kind of context, if that when that fits into your story. So it's really you have to break down the genre, and the tone, and those expected tropes of what it is you're writing, to see whether you need to go into detailed, heavy choreography. Because and what your character knows. Does your character operate that way? So that's a long answer, and it's not a specific, easy answer, but that's how I look at a fight scene. It's got to fit within this overall context, and if it doesn't, you don't need it.
No, so that's I have a few things I want to follow up on there.
Sure.
I guess I'll start with you mentioned how the way that a fight scene is described will depend on the genre and the character as well. You know what their experience is and all of that. So, can you go into a little bit more about how genre informs the way that these scenes are written? You already
Sure.
talked about military uh, thrillers and hard sci-fi, but what about some others?
Right. So first of all, let's understand what a fight scene is. So when I talk fight scene, it's any kind of physical confrontation. So that can be on a battlefield, it can be a lover slapping another lover, whatever, because how you choose to do it contributes to the story. So, for example, I typically write thrillers or fantasy, both of the kind of a humorous or lighter bent to it. Um, in in my most recent book, the character knows what they're doing. The character is a trained combatant and knows. So when I describe what he does, it is choreographed. Slips a punch, comes up and hits with an uppercut. Those kind of talking and using the terms, so that so you see a choreographed fight as if you're watching a boxing match or a MMA match or that kind of thing. In another story I've written, the character doesn't really know what they're doing, so it's much general. It's just pushing, shoving, ducking. I threw a bunch of punches trying to hit, kind of thing, without being specific, because the character doesn't know what they're doing. So you've got to look at that no matter what genre you're in. So whether it's fantasy and you're doing sword fights or casting spells or dragons or breathing fire or whatever, you have to understand your character in those scenes and how your characters are going to behave. So and again, to keep it simple, if you have a protagonist from the protagonist's point of view, and your protagonist is a skilled combatant, then you can choreograph your fight with directing the blows, and as long as you understand what it is you're doing, you could simply say swung his sword, the guy ducked, whatever, if that works in the tone of your story. It really comes down to that, because I've read all sorts of different ones, and if the choreography is clean and clear and fits the tone, it's great. If it's not, it's jarring, and it stops me in the middle to read and figuring out what is actually happening here, because I can't really picture it. And that's a great critique I'll sometimes get from a critique group, is if I try to do a detailed fight scene and they can't follow the dance, then I know I have to clean it up, because I've either gone too much in detail, or I've forgotten the setting that the fight's taking place in, so they can't see how these characters are moving around space, etc. I would say if you are writing in a genre that doesn't typically have a lengthy combative scene or fight scene, for example, romance, then it doesn't have to have a choreography. In fact, I think a detailed choreography wouldn't fit in a traditional romance. It would simply be like, she slapped him, he caught her wrist, or he just turned and rubbed his cheek. Those kind of very simple things. So that's when I talk about genre. It takes some research on what's out there currently, what you like to read and what you're seeing and what works for you. But this is the kind of like the model I'm trying to push to writers.
Okay, well, that's kind of encouraging to me. I'm thinking about my more choreographed scenes, and they're always with characters who are intensely mindful of that. The characters who aren't as trained don't get that level of detail. So I'm feeling feeling all right.
No, that's perfect. That's what makes it fit. And if your readers are telling you, aren't commenting on it, then it's working. That's how I kind of look at it. It should be a seamless part of the overall story, of that scene, of that, you know, act. It should not stick out. It should feel like it belongs.
So for anybody who is in, my position, and they have this character who is, very good at a variety of types of combat, but they don't have personal experience. I've never been in a
Mhm.
fight, I don't have that kind of training. Um, what do you think is the best way to get real information that will be useful to for those moments that they do need to know a little bit more about how something feels or what the terminology is?
Right. Well, so right now you're on the perfect platform for it. YouTube. Just you can search YouTube for everything from, beginner boxing videos to wrestling techniques to whatever. There are experts out there, former champions, whatever, who understand that connecting with their audience, they've put up all these video tutorials and videos, so you can get a sense of that. As much as I love recommending, hey, go out, take a self-defense course, take a few months of Krav Maga or karate or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or something. If it's not your passion to pursue in terms of, yeah, I want to get all the way to black belt, don't worry about it. But if you go to the classes, or at least, maybe even interview an instructor to say, hey, I'm writing this book, can I talk to you? Because writers do it all the time with, policemen, firemen,
Mm.
doctors, as part of their research, forensic scientists. um, it'd be the same with a fight scene. Okay, what are the parts of a sword? What are the different cuts and defensive, we can say moves? Parry's a specific one, so I just want to say parries. But what are the stances, et cetera, et cetera? What are they called? And understanding that they're going to be called different things in different languages.
Hmm.
So those, just doing your research. YouTube is a great tool if you are on a time and budget constraint. If you have the time, both, and the means to go out and take some classes, go to a shooting range so that you understand how firearms work. Go to an archery range if you want to learn how bows and arrows and everything else works, so that you can feel it. One of the things I love to do in my workshops is actually have people hit pads, whether with their hands or with sticks or whatever, to actually feel what impact feels like, to understand what's going in your mind as you approach doing this. If this is your first time doing it, or what's going on in your mind if you've done this all before. Do you think this is kind of basic and elementary? Okay, translate that to your character. What is going through your character's mind as they're walking into or being jumped or whatever? So it's this kind of self-analysis of what you're doing, and then it's the actual context of the impact. What did it feel like, not only at the point of impact, but through your arm or through your hand or in your teeth? What were you smelling? What was the sound actually like? How can you describe it without just using like an onomatopoeia kind of thing? Not that that's actually how you have to write it, but it forces you to think about that simple concept. Like at the workshop that you saw at Pikes Peak Writers, I had planned to do that, but just wasn't time. But I had a young writer come up to me at the end and ask, "Hey, can I punch that?" I'm like, "Well, have you ever punched anything before?" It was a pad I had. And she's like, "No." Well, then I would say no, because to punch versus slap or hit, you have to actually develop your knuckles and your wrists so that you understand how to align things so you don't break your wrist, crack a knuckle,
Hmm.
sprain or your wrist. It takes a lot more to be good at punching or hitting than people think. You don't have to put all that depth into your story, but if your character's trained versus untrained, there's things they're going to react in a certain way to the first time they punch somebody, especially in something hard like the face. um, I'm of a generation that grew up with a TV show called The Fall Guy, which is the main character was a professional stuntman. But whenever he would get in a real fight and have to really punch somebody, he'd be shaking out his hand because it hurts. And it does. You're hitting a block of bone. It's not comfortable. And it was funny. It was kind of this comedic action show where these guys were bounty hunters. But it was something that always stuck with me. It's like, oh, you never see that in other TV shows. But here's this
Hmm.
guy who's showing that when you really punch somebody, it hurts. And so to get good at that, you have to train, you have to practice, you have to develop the knuckles, the joints, the bones, because a punch is using some of the smallest bones in the human body to do
Hmm.
damage to the thing that's designed to protect the most important organ in the human body. So it's a weird when you think about it. But yeah, that's why I like
Hmm.
when people just like, hey, let's punch. It's like, no, you need to experience first what impact feels like.
That's pretty fascinating. Just, I mean, I'd heard that it really hurts to punch somebody in the face, but to consider it from that perspective, like you do need to, yeah, develop all of that skill really before you're good at it. I guess. I mean,
Yep.
that's is it great to be good at punching people in the face? I guess there's a time and place for it, but that's really interesting to consider, and it goes beyond just here's what's happening and
Mhm.
again into the character. It's not um just just motions, but it's all that sensory detail of what this actually entails in addition to whatever emotional turmoil they're in at the moment,
Yep.
which is that's
Yep.
good stuff. See, I knew there was a reason. I was excited to talk to you about this
Yeah.
topic.
And just
Art. Oh,
and
go ahead.
as you as a writer, or as your followers as writers, that's a decision you need to make whether to incorporate that into that part of the story. Does it need to be in there? But it is something you should understand as you're writing, because that might be a great thing to add to your scene, is that this character hurts their hand or whatever, because it works for your story. But then also understanding, like I love Jackie Chan movies, they're so fun, but no fight in real life is going to last 25 minutes. You just don't have the endurance. Your adrenaline's going to peak, and then you're going to be wiped out. It's like it's concepts like that when you see it in a movie, it's fun, and you can sometimes read it in a book and it's fun, but an author who knows what they're writing about realizes all these extra factors. It's not just swinging the weapon or shooting or whatever. There's all this internal stuff happening as well that's going to make it feel more visceral and real to the reader.
Oh, well, are there any last minute tips that you want to leave our audience with for how to write an excellent fight scene? You've already given us a lot so far, but if you've been hanging on to a couple extra nuggets you wanted to get out there,
Well,
love to hear them.
the absolute best thing you can do is understand your characters. Understand your characters in terms of their goals, their motivation, their internal conflicts, why they're in the fight, all that, those kind of things, so that you have a concept of how your character would react in this combat situation you're going to stick them in, and then understanding how they would fight, what they would do, what do they want to get out of the fight? Are they just trying to get away? Are they trying to kill or just stop the person? Are they just trying to avoid the fight? So there's a lot of different motivations. So the best thing you can do is, as a writer, is thoroughly understand this character that you're putting in this situation, and then all the background that you as the author put in, going, this is why the fight needs to happen. So that's the best nugget I can give to any writer is, before you write the fight scene, understand the characters that you're putting into the fight in a deep way. I mean, look at them. Have they hurt other people before? Have they been hurt before? Those kind of concepts. So that's the most important in my mind, because it sticks out like a sore thumb when it doesn't, when the fight doesn't match the characters in the fight.
Mm. Well, this was fantastic. Thank you so much for agreeing to talk with me today. And where can people find you, find your books, anything else that you want to pitch online?
Well, sure. You can always find me. My website is storiesbybowen.com. All one word, storiesbybowen.com. I'm on Facebook, probably most as far as social media, under Bowen Gillings author. That's easy to find. You can look me up wherever you check out books, whether it's Goodreads or BookBub or All Author. My books are available everywhere through like Books to Read, Amazon, all those guys. So you can find my stuff there. I have ebooks, paper, all that fun stuff. And if you want to come see me do something live, come to the Colorado Gold Conference in September, and this talk you and I just had will be a 2-hour long workshop.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much. This has been great. Make sure to like this video if you like it, subscribe for more writing, publishing, and indie author life, and I'll see you next week.